Sup, ladies and gentlemen, Akalon here, and welcome back to each and one of you. Of course, if you are new to the channel, thank you so much for joining us. I am very happy to have you here. You'll see that we're doing another sort of raw video, although this one should, at least in theory, be edited slightly. The problem is that the studio is still not set up. It's still not the way that I would like it to be. So yeah, that's going to take a little bit of time. I'm not sure what I want to do with the studio, in all honesty. I have no idea. But hopefully we'll be able to figure that out. Anyways, for now, I hope you guys enjoy the garden videos. I am planning on doing more of these garden videos. I think it just looks nice. It's nice. It's more informal. It's more what I want the videos to be like, which is a conversation, which is us just hanging out, talking. By the way, that's where I sit in the mornings. I have my coffee there. I actually have my coffee here. I'm not sitting there now because it's very uneven, but the chair is in the perfect spot to have your coffee. Anyways, I've been wanting to talk about this for quite some time. I've been wanting to make a video on this. I did discuss Horde v Alliance during one of the live streams just before all the bullshit started and happened with the house, and I'm still going to do a house tour for you guys. I've already started doing it. I've started recording some things, but yeah, give me some time. I promise that is going to happen, and it's going to be cool. I'm still, like I said, trying to figure out the whole studio situation, but that should be... anyways, we'll talk about that later. Although before we get into this video, onto something that isn't raw, isn't uncut, and isn't as unprofessional as I am. The sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform that takes you and millions of other people and teaches you whatever it is you wish to know. For less than $10 a month, you can get access to all the tools you would need in order to develop yourself. Right now, I'm actually taking a course on Storytelling 101 from Daniel Jose Older that teaches me about characters and conflict and how to tell the perfect story, how to keep your audience gripped while you're telling that story. Things that I never even thought of is in these videos. Gardening. Yeah, I need gardening. You can see the garden doesn't look pristine. It's not even one of my hobbies, but I saw the video. I thought, screw it, I'll check it out. Why not? That's the beauty of Skillshare. It really does put you in a learning environment where every single video is aimed at helping you improve yourself. For less than $10 a month, or a free trial premium membership if you click the link in the description down below for the first 1,000 people. You really can't afford to miss out on this. It will help out the channel if you click the link in the description down below, but it will help yourself out even more. And just before we get into the video, please remember to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and you know what? Leave me a comment in the comment section down below telling me what you think, either of Skillshare or of the video. And with that said, let's jump back into the video. So with that now out of the way, I think it is time for us to discuss Horde v Alliance. There was a lot of talk about this at BlizzCon. There was almost in every single, actually, I believe it was in every single one of the Q&As. Blizzard was asked about the Horde v Alliance, the faction warfare, the necessity for factions in World of Warcraft. And contrary, or the opposite of what happened in previous years, whenever questions like that did creep up, where Blizzard just sort of straight up said, I believe the last time Ian was asked about this before BlizzCon, Ian made it very clear, look, we have no intention of removing the factions. The factions are very much core and central to World of Warcraft. It's how it needs to happen. Without it, World of Warcraft wouldn't make as much sense as it does. However, this time around at BlizzCon, the answer changed quite a bit, and I believe there's a reason for this. We're going to go into that reason. We're going to be talking about why the factions are so important in World of Warcraft, why the factions require or need to exist in World of Warcraft, but then more importantly, I think it's also important to sort of examine where the factions need to go next, what the factions could become and what the factions could mean, so that you don't lose that essence of the factions, but it's also not in the mess that it is right now. And we'll also be examining why it got into the mess that it is. Okay, so let's first talk about why the factions in World of Warcraft is so important. Why you need factions in World of Warcraft, because obviously there are those who believe that it's an old idea. It's an old idea, excuse me. I'm trying to move the camera in such a way that I can actually have a conversation without, the phone being all over the place. But let's discuss why the factions is important. Why should we have factions in World of Warcraft? Well, at its core, when World of Warcraft was first, when it first reached inception, I guess you could say, when it was born, World of Warcraft came from Warcraft. Warcraft was orcs v humans, and the orcs v humans was this massive story of two races being thrust together on a planet. And well, basically they never even tried to work together. They hated one another, and that was really the story of World of Warcraft. When World of Warcraft was born, when it was first idealized, Blizzard decided to build two factions. So rather than just having these two races, the orcs versus the humans, they decided to build two factions, and each one of these factions had their own races within it, and it created the necessary sort of conflict that would move the story forward one way or another. And this light is miserable, so let's move. The conflict was necessary in a way. Without the conflict, I think you would have ended up with what can only be described as a very weird sort of a game that doesn't have structure, a game that doesn't have flow to it. And that really is the main problem whenever you try to build an MMO with no factions in it. This is why every single MMO out there either started off with a faction of some kind or two factions of some kind. Eventually they would let go of the faction. Elder Scrolls is probably the best example of this, where they have all of these factions. The problem was that these factions never really functioned as they did in World of Warcraft. They never had the same success as the ones in World of Warcraft, and of course eventually they did decide to sort of do away with them, whereas now it's far more an ideological decision, which I do believe is something that is in the future of World of Warcraft, but we will talk about that in a second. But the original factions allowed Blizzard to really tell a story without having to invest too much time and effort into the story itself, because the factions really was the story. You were part of the Horde, therefore you were fighting for the survival of the Horde. You were part of the Alliance, you were fighting for the survival of the Alliance, and that really was the story of World of Warcraft Vanilla. Of course, in TBC, for the very first time, we really saw a massive scale onslaught, something that we had to go sort out, a bigger problem than what is the Horde versus the Alliance. We saw the same thing in Wrath of the Lich King. In Cataclysm, Blizzard tried to bring back some of that Horde v Alliance conflict. In Mists of Pandaria, it really blew up to the point where Horde v Alliance, but at that point, I think the damage to the faction systems were already done. And as I said before, and as I've said multiple times, without really in life, the death of something, the ultimate destruction of something isn't instant. It's not something that happens, that's the moment that you can pinpoint and say, this is the moment that factions died, or this is the moment that things went wrong. It usually is death by 1,000 little cuts, right? And that's really true for World of Warcraft as well in the faction system. Because of all of these expansions where we were asked to set aside our differences and start working together, we've ended up with this moment in time that we find ourselves in now, where a lot of players, especially people who don't come from the World of Warcraft era, are asking themselves, but why? Why must I care about fighting the Alliance? Why must I care about fighting the Horde? Why is it so important that I am part of the Horde and of the Alliance? What changed? Why did that change? I said, death by 1,000 little cuts. It wasn't instant. It wasn't overnight. It was something that happened because of every expansion chipping away slowly at this faction system. But of course, what did that do? Because, as I said, pinpointing the exact moment where things went wrong, impossible. There is literally no way that you can do that. But we can pinpoint what happened. The factions lost their identity. The factions lost their ideology. They lost the reasons, the ideas for why they existed. And that is something that I don't think you can get back. Every single question that was asked at BlizzCon all had pretty much the same answer. We realize this is a problem, and we realize that the biggest problem the players have isn't the fact that the factions exist. It's the problems that come with the factions. The fact that I have friends that I want to play with, but my friends happen to be alliance, so I can't play with my friends. What the hell is this? People want to be able to play with their friends, and they're not capable of doing that. So what is the answer? What is the thing that Blizzard needs to do in order to bring that back? I don't think it can be brought back. I don't think there is an expansion that you can make where you focus on the Horde v Alliance conflict and somehow people realize, oh, that's why I joined the Horde, or oh, that's why I joined the Alliance. For the vast majority of players out there, the reason they joined the Alliance or the Horde is usually based on friendship. And then for the other group, it's based on the race that they want to play. It is almost never based on the faction that they want to be a part of. Myself, I don't have that problem. I am Horde because I've always liked the Orcs. I've always believed that the Orcs is an amazing race. In Warcraft, I played an Orc, right? I played the Orcs. That was my favorite race to play in all of the campaigns and all of my multiplayer games against my brothers at the time. I played an Orc, right? I preferred that. So for me, it was an easy decision when I started playing World of Warcraft. It's still an easy decision today. What character do I want to make? I don't know. Something in the Horde, right? Doesn't matter which race, as long as it's something within the Horde. And then most of the time, whenever I can, I play an Orc. Yeah, that's how boring I am. I don't like new things. I don't like change. I prefer to go with what I know. Go with what makes sense. But for most players, that's not the case. For a vast majority, or for a large group of people, it's wanting to play with their friends, and so they go where the majority of their friends are. Maybe they have friends on the opposite side, and this is where this whole conflict comes from, where people go, look, I have friends on the Horde, I have friends on the Alliance. I would like to play with my friends, but I can't because of this arbitrary system that I don't understand, because the faction no longer has any ideological bend. It no longer has any ideological meaning. The faction stands for nothing. And you may say, from a lore perspective, that isn't true, but we're not talking about lore here. We're not talking about people that understand the lore of World of Warcraft. We're talking about people who just want to play the game. And unfortunately, there's far more people who just want to play the game than there are people who actually know what the game is actually about. And that's where things get messy. That's where things really break down. Like I already said, I don't think this is something that you can fix by introducing a new expansion, because I think at the end of the day, if Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria and Warlords of Draenor and even Legion to some extent, Battle for Azeroth didn't fix it, I don't think it's fixable. I don't think there is a single expansion where you're going to go, right, this is it. This is the moment we've been waiting for. From this moment forward, we can fix the expansion. I just think if you want to fix the expansion, you have to fix the factions. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing is to re-establish some kind of ideological bend within the factions. The problem with that is that there are clear issues within the leadership structures of the different races. What am I talking about? What do I mean when I say that? There are Tauren who follow Bane's example, who would fit far better with the Alliance, the modern day Alliance, than they would with the Horde. There's Orcs who followed Saurfang, who would fit far better with modern day Alliance than they would with modern day Horde, or at least the ones who followed Sylvanas. Within the Horde itself, we very recently, had a choice between joining Sylvanas or joining Saurfang. Those who joined Sylvanas is very unhappy with how things have played out, and those who have joined Saurfang isn't all that happy with how things played out. So how do you fix it? What is the fix? Is there even a fix? Now, according to Ian, this is stuff that they're looking into, so my fixes, my potential fixes, is really suggestions. Hopefully someone at Blizzard watches this, and hopefully this means something to someone over at Blizzard. But in my opinion, it starts with removing the racial balance or the racial restrictions to the different factions. You see, I think that when it comes to World of Warcraft, and I think that when it comes to the incredible amount of races that exist within World of Warcraft, there is this unfortunate side effect where someone might find themselves more closely aligned to Anduin and Jaina and Tyrande than they do to Saurfang or Sylvanas or to Princess Talanji. But because of the restrictions that they have in how they choose their factions, they're not able to play their favorite Blood Elf on the side of Anduin and of Jaina. They're not capable of playing their favorite Gnome on the side of Saurfang or Princess Talanji. And so they're forced into this arbitrary system that locks them into this arbitrary faction, when in reality, as we've already established, the factions don't make a whole lot of sense. Right? That really is the case in point. The factions don't make a whole lot of sense. So what do? Well, at first you have to establish a clear ideological bend between the factions. Right now that does not exist. So if Ian and his developers want to fix this, they have to go and say, right, what is the Horde? What is the Alliance? Right now, what is the Horde? What is the Alliance? The Horde is a faction that has a leadership structure of a council. The Alliance is a faction that has a leadership structure of a king that sort of relies on a council. At the end of the day, what is the ideological differences between these factions? Null and void. Doesn't matter. There is none. They both of these groups wants to see Azeroth in peace, some kind of peace between the Horde and the Alliance. Both of them wants to start working towards the greater goal of destroying Sylvanas and Zuval, and this really is the end of it. But that's not a recipe for success. That's not how you achieve success in a game where, according to Ian himself, one of the core principles of World of Warcraft, and the sun keeps screwing me over. I get here, the sun is behind the clouds, it looks amazing, and then the sun comes out and bam, completely washed the fuck out. Anyways, let's see if this works a little bit better for now. Okay, yeah, this seems to work a little bit better. According to Ian himself, the factions is core and central to World of Warcraft. However, the factions have no difference. Right now, you could remove, technically, the factions and nothing would change. Because the Horde doesn't stand for anything that the Alliance clearly opposes, and the Alliance doesn't stand for anything that the Horde clearly opposes. And conflict breeds interesting storylines. But how do you reintroduce those conflicts? Well, as I said, first cut the racial restrictions to the game. In other words, it doesn't matter what race you pick. You do not pick your race and automatically lock yourself into a faction. Your faction comes later. And they can do this in a myriad of ways. First and foremost, they can do just in the selection screen. You choose your gnome, you make your gnome, and then you go, which faction do you want to choose? Horde v Alliance, you do that. That would be the most boring way to do it. The better way, the way that I would go for, is you choose your character and you play this sort of neutral storyline. This neutral storyline that we have right now in World of Warcraft. Yes, this would lead to the zones sort of changing. Maybe you're playing through the history of when the Horde and the Alliance were enemies and why they were enemies, and you sort of uncover what happened and how they eventually, how the new Horde and Alliance was established. But then at level 50 or even at level 60 at max level, you get that choice. That choice is now fully introduced to you. So finally, they ask you, when you reach max level and you finish that quest line, you get a quest to choose your faction. Based on the choices that you've made, based on the introductions that you've seen, you now know who this new Horde and the new Alliance actually is. And you make a choice based on who you believe you would fit best with. Now, again, there are going to be many people who choose based on where their friends are. They're not going to give a shit about what the actual ideological differences between the factions, but someone like myself, I will care about what those ideological differences are and how those ideological differences actually play out in the game. So for me, that would be an important choice. For other people, it won't. But at the end of the day, everyone gets to be happy. And that really is, in my opinion, the point of this decision, the point of the fix. My fix, I believe, leaves everyone happy because everyone can play where they choose to play. It will most likely solve a lot of the faction balancing issues because suddenly you can be a troll and you can join the Alliance with all of your friends. It should lead, technically, or at least in theory, it should lead to a 50-50 split of the player base, because 50% of the people will believe in one side of the ideology, and 50% of the people will believe in the other side of the ideology, especially if you base it on something real-life based. So the ideologies does play somewhat off of something that is within real life discoverable, or something that the world's population is sort of split on 50-50. To my opinion, that really, or to my mind really, I don't see another way to fix it. I don't see another way in which you can arguably have a good faction system if that's not the faction system that you're going for. Like I said, Blizzard can do anything, and I fear that their fix to this is most likely just going to be to drop the restrictions of people being able to play together, and maybe keep those restrictions only for Mythic raiding and maybe Mythic Plus. But at the end of the day, that still doesn't solve a lot of the underlying issues, right? That still doesn't solve a lot of the balancing issues that undoubtedly Blizzard is going to run in at some point. It doesn't solve a lot of... It will actually lead to a lot more races being added to the game, I think, because now you no longer have to think about adding 2 new races, one for the Horde, one for the Alliance. You just add one new race that makes sense and that is sort of cool, and bam, you're good to go. Blizzard said this before, right? One of the reasons they've never made a Murloc playable race is because who gets the race? Easy. They choose whichever one they want to play with. So suddenly, you could have a Murloc playable race. You could have a Naga or an Ogre playable race, because the player chooses which faction they want to join at the end of it. And I believe it will also lead to a much deeper and richer choice when it comes to factions. That at least is my theory, my thinking off the cuff as I'm going through this, and as I'm doing this video, and as I'm trying to articulate my thoughts around this. But I would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section down below. Remember, if you like this video, if you like videos like this one, to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and smash that bell that notifies you whenever I bring out brand new content, raw, uncut, and hopefully somewhat good. Ladies and gentlemen, all of the patrons, the Twitch subs, and the YouTube channel members, thank you so much for your monthly contributions. It does mean the world to me. Thanks to you guys, this channel is still growing, and it's growing stronger every single day. I quite literally wouldn't be without you, so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Guys, as always, my name is Aquilon, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out, fam.